Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Expanse Abridged Podcast, working through the first novel of the series called Leviathan Wakes, and today we're going to do chapter 2, which is a Miller chapter. It's our first Miller chapter. I really enjoy Miller, I think he's fun. He's an arsehole, but he's just kind of fun. Right off the bat, I want to apologise for missing a week. I did say it would be weekly, and then I missed my third one, which isn't as bad as missing a second, but it's still not great. The reason for that is on holiday. So there's a photo of me. Missed a week, but won't happen again. I'm going to try and get on top of it now. I apologise as well to my legions of loyal fans. I think there was about 8 of you so far who watched some of the early videos, which I'm very chuffed with because that's 8 more than I thought. Well, 7 more because I did tell one person. Today we're back on the game and we're going to do chapter 2, Miller. So this chapter opens with this guy, Josephus Miller, who you kind of learn to love. So the chapter opens and he's in this girl's room. He's a detective, as you can tell by his little hat. I only wear caps, I'm not as cool as him, because he wears a pork pie hat, which is cool. Especially because it's in space. So he's at this girl's there's been an issue in an apartment, and he's chilling out there, and he's standing by the door and blinking, and he's with his assistant. He's a guy called Havelock, who, the first description of him is called Squat Man. This is Havelock. He's never really called Dimitri, but apparently that's his first name, but he's just called Havelock normally. For Miller, his wife was a Squat Man, which is you straight into the good old-fashioned ethnic banter between belters and earthers. And it's saying how this guy Havelock looks bored, Miller doesn't look bored, which is why Miller's very good at poker. And Miller's chatting to the belter, the girl he's dealing, and he's imitating her voice. So she's got the twang of an inner-level resident, and they're doing those really big belter hand gestures that I talked about how much I enjoy the descriptions of, because obviously they're all from spacesuits. And it says the girl nodded back like there were 2 birds doing a mating dance with these great moves. And it talks about how this girl's apartment is really small and really shit, and it's because it's really near the centre of Ceres, which is where Miller currently is, which is an asteroid in the asteroid belt. And because it's really near the centre and Ceres is spinning around, there isn't actually much gravity. There's not much mass as well. So apparently the bed has fallen off the wall and they can't even fix it, or it won't even ping back up because there's not enough gravity anymore. And the point of this is the girl's a prostitute, and whoever broke the bed didn't even pay for dinner and had to got chased out. And he chased out like he was losing air, which is quite a fun phrase. Apparently he's a blade boy, whatever that means. That's quite a cool phrase. And Miller, after chatting for a bit, Miller gets up with a light push, because there's no gravity, and floats away. And he just says, let them know I've asked about it, I'm on the case. And says they go outside and the tunnel is dirty. This is like the slums, effectively, of the asteroid, because it's really in the middle, there's no gravity, it's not very nice. It's probably just down the street, someone had rammed into a wall and knocked off all the concrete and covering. You could see the inner rock, but it was near the centre of the spin. Tourists never came here. Then he walked back to their little cart. They drive around little golf carts that seem to be automated from in the books. Driving's pretty cool. And they go and it describes Havelock is bouncing really high every step because there's not enough gravity. And Havelock's an earther, which is why he's described as squat. So he's bouncing everywhere, but he's not. And Miller makes the point of noting that Miller's lived on Ceres his whole life. He doesn't bounce as much because he's cool. So they get into the car, they start going, and they get some chat. Havelock said, "Do you have fun chatting in all that belter language and keeping him out of the loop?" And Miller's like, "Nah, this is what it is," whether he did enjoy it. And the point there is Havelock's like a bit of a boy, he can just take the chat, while Miller notes he isn't very good at taking any chat, which is why Miller sucks at team sports and working with people. Well, Havelock doesn't really mind, because the whole point is Havelock is an earther that doesn't understand what a lot of the belter speak was on about. So that really big divide is always there in this team. Then we get a nice bit of background of Ceres. So I've said it's like a little asteroid belt. So an asteroid in the belt. Apparently it's 250 kilometres in diameter, tens of thousands of kilometres of tunnel in it, and it's spinning up to 0.3 g, which is a number you'll see throughout the Expanse, because what everyone seems to like is a bit of gravity, but you're all light and floaty, so you can be lazy. There's now 6 million people that live there, and because it's like a trading hub, you tend to get 1 million extra people who are just staying there on any particular day. It says you've got platinum, iron, titanium from the belt, water from Saturn. The greenhouses on Ganymede send all their food, and the stuff from Earth and Mars are called organics. And it's a rival of wealth and power. So a river of wealth and power and rival in human history go through series. And because of all that wealth, there was crime. And when there's crime, there's security forces. And that is Miller and Havelock. And it says they're trying to find out why this rent hall they were previously speaking to, why someone stopped collecting protection money from someone nearby called Bomi Chatterjee from the Golden Bough Society, which is one of the gangs in the area. So someone that was doing protection money just kind of stopped, and they're trying to figure out what's happened. So Miller and Havelock also work for Star Helix, which is like a private security, so it's like pseudo-police, pseudo-military kind of organisation, and they head back to their base, and that's who they work for. So it's a private one that's kind of appointed. It's not like a state, which is a cool thing about the belt, obviously, because there's no real government. So they get back, and they realise that the guy that was with the horse is a guy called Bomi, and they were like, maybe he hired these people to attack him, and he ran off to make him look really odd, and he can be like, yeah, I'm a big gangster and stuff. But the issue is the guy ran away, and from this hall after being attacked, and hasn't come back up. So they're like, oh god, has he died or something like that? And they're trying to figure it out. So this Golden Bow's there's been a Golden Bow issue, and they're trying to figure out what's happened here. And then Miller makes a great quote of, say what you will about organised crime, at least it's organised. So Miller's doing the classic detective thing of like, there's something off with this case, while Havelock's being that, it's fine, it's just gangsters being gangsters. Which is a bit of a stereotype, but it's fun. He's got a cool hat, I don't really mind. And Miller makes a point of talking about the forgotten arm, which is a boxing term about the arm you didn't see coming that's going to hit you. And they kind of talk about that as in like, there's definitely something going here. So it really is just like the stereotype of the old detective, the young thing, but it's just fun. Yeah, then he gets called by his captain, Captain Shadid, which is played by this lady in the TV show. And he goes over to their office, and she only wants to speak to Miller, doesn't want to speak to Havelock because of some good old-fashioned ethnic banter, or what I know as racism, because she's a belter, Miller's a belter, but Havelock isn't. Even though Shadid doesn't like Miller, it's just like that's the idea of all of that. So they go in there, and they talk about their office being decorated. All obviously is fake, none of it can be real wood or real smells, but they have these filters that try and make things seem real. And it talks about in the book, Shadid's got long hair over a collar, which is a violation, and it makes it look really chill, but Miller is scared of her, or it says it's deceptive coloration, because she's basically an hard bitch. He kind of gives some chat about this Golden Bough, and like the other crimes, like stuff moving around, trying to figure out what's happening there. She's a bit interested because she's worried about the OPA. So we learned about the OPA, not last episode, one before, with Julie Mao, and Miller says an advance by the OPA was a constant bogeyman of serious security. They're like, the OPA it says the equivalent of Hamas and the IRA and Al Capone, and it's one who believe that they can help people. It's kind of like part social movement, part wannabe nation, and part terrorist group, depending on your perspective. But the idea is it doesn't have like a central cohesion, it's all about a big network, and the series is terrified of that, because it's harder to go after something like that. You can't shoot an idea, which is a quote from something else. So they kind of talk about that for a bit, and then she gets disinterested when she realises it's nothing too important, and they kind of talk about some other crime that's been going on. And then Shadid gives Miller a new contract, which is just for him and not for Havelock. Then there's some chat from Miller about him being an arsehole. So Shadid's like, oh, you got a new job. And he's like, what does that mean, a new job? And she's like, Stargate Security has accepted a contract, da-da-da-da-da. Well, basically it's Miller being an arsehole, which is why no one likes him, but it makes it quite a funny guy. And basically there's a really rich shareholder of the company who's kind of hired these guys to do a specific job. And that's all that Miller's being told. And because it's a private organisation, the shareholders can kind of call the shots, so they're going to do something like that for them. And Miller gets a new file on his phone called J Mao, and it's a little lost daughter case for Adriane and Jules Pierre Mao. And then we get some background on the Mao family. So Mao Kwiatkowski Mercantile is like one of the big, it's like a big industrial corporation that does shipping and stuff. It says it's like a legal firm involved in the epic failure of the Venusian cloud cities, which is just like cool universe building, but not really discussed elsewhere. Basically, it's like a FedEx kind of thing, and it's shipping, does a few other things, but it's not the biggest, but it's pretty big still. And the idea is, you learn about they've got a misplaced daughter, which is who we've met before, Julie. And what Miller learns is She was a student activist, a group that was affiliated with the OPA. She wanted to be a freedom fighter, but she's gone off the record and now they want to find. So Miller calls it a kidnap job, with his mission being find Julie Mao, detain her, and ship her home, and that's it. And she's got an apartment here, and obviously because it's all... I always think it's a bit weird, but immediately Shadid gives him the password to her apartment so he can just wander in if he wants to, just like that, and then they'll go find her with this kidnap job. Then we get a bit more story about Miller, how Miller's thinking about it, because he gets a strange knot in his stomach. The joke was that Ceres didn't have laws, it had police. And he kind of this description about how, because they're the private security firm, stuff just like, things aren't always clean, so a kidnap job is fine. There's stuff like, sometimes people vanish out of airlocks, sometimes things go missing. But it's like, the idea is it's all justified, because you're living on a rock in the middle of nowhere, your food is shipped in, your air is shipped in, a certain moral flexibility is necessary. Which I like to say about my life, but then I live in London and stuff, so it's not exactly the same situation, but it helps me sleep at night. So then we go on, we talk a bit about, she did ask about Havelock, and Miller says, having him around makes people like me better. That's nice. And she smiles for the first time, a nearly genuine smile, and he says, nothing like a little bit of shared racism to build ties with the boss, which is fun. I shouldn't try that at work. Then we go on a bit, and then Miller's gone home. He's got lives on the 8th level near a little park. Apparently, like the roof is like dyed blue to try and look like the summer sky on Earth, but he doesn't think about it. There's a great quote. He doesn't really know because he hasn't been to Earth, and there's a great quote. Living on the surface of a planet, mass sucking at every bone and muscle, and nothing but gravity to keep your air close, seemed like a fast path to crazy. Which is always a great one when you think about people that live on rocks. There's a fun way of looking at that. Talk about how all the holes and stuff to make them feel more homely try to be scented. So some smell like flowers, some like baking bread. Miller's ex-wife, because obviously he's divorced in this scenario, and he will start drinking whiskey soon, and he has a little hat, and he's depressed. Yeah, in all the stereotypes, and it's great. And he had something called she wanted a scent called Earth Lily, which apparently Miller thinks smells like waste recycling. Then it talks about the circle of life on Ceres was so small you could see the curve, which is a great quote, because obviously everything has to be recycled, so all the water was piss and shit, and it will be again soon. He gets out some whiskey, which is made from engineered yeast, because obviously they can't get real organics up in space, and they have to have yeast. A lot of the Expanse talks about like yeast and fungus, which is like a reoccurring thing they talk about. And then at this point, Miller, now he's sat alone, he's got his whiskey, he starts looking at photos of Julie, the 18-year-old girl, alone in his apartment. And so she's a pretty girl with thin lunar citizen's frame, long black hair, grinning like the universe had given her a kiss. And then she talks about some race she did in her racing pinnace, the Razorback, which comes up later on in the series, which is like a little kind of like backstreet racer kind of version of a spaceship, but really, really quick. Is the idea, very, very small. He says, poor little rich girl, sucks to be you, I guess. And then he talks a bit about his ex-wife, which is nice and depressing. In his imagination, she rolled her eyes. It's just Miller is bloody great. Then he heats up a bowl of real rice and fake beans. Yeast and fungus could mimic anything if you had enough whiskey first. So again, straight to the fungus. And then he sits on his balcony and enjoys his dinner. And watches all the locals do their thing, and watches the park go by, and watches a sparrow hover in like the low gravity. And he starts thinking about work, but his main thing is he's thinking about this organised crime, rather than Julie Mao. And he says, this thing of Julie Mao, it was a sideshow. Which obviously to the reader is immediately like, no, this is your job now, Miller. So yeah, there's the first chapter of Miller. I really enjoy it, I think it's fun. You got some good quotes, universe building, all of it. And you get just like straight into stereotypes about what Miller is really like. I realise now I didn't have his photo up most of that. But yeah, you just see him hitting the stereotypes, doing his thing. It is quite fun. So yeah, cheers for that, guys. I'll make sure I'm more regular on the next few.